Hey guys, it's me again. Day 3, the final day of the SFA Digital Summit, and I'm here in beautiful Poblacion, Makati.
Another
If
one.
you look around me, I have BGC in the background. If we did a 360, you would see the Makati skyline. You'd also see Mandaluyong to the right of me over here. This is one of my favorite spots. This is Dr. Wine. It's a French restaurant at the bottom that has a wide selection of wines from around the world. And on top, there used to be a restaurant slash bar called Cartel, and they actually got shut down because they were not complying to COVID rules during the height of the pandemic here in the Philippines. But that being said, day one was how to build an e-commerce brand. So we talked about the steps that it takes, what a brand means, how to communicate that with your audience. So we had Jordan Glickman, we had Harrison Bevins talk about building an Amazon business that you can sell. We had Alan Scanlan talk about his e-commerce brand that he built up in the last year or so. We had marketing for FBA by Emma Shermer-Tamir. We had topics on crowdfunding as well by Nalan. So lots of great information there. So that was day one. Day two was the nitty-gritty of manufacturing. That was me. That was my business partner Mike. That was Andy Church talking about quality control. That was Luke Francis talking about the manufacturing pitfalls. So super important, all the right steps you have to take. That was also Renault talking about design for manufacturing. So super important, all the steps you have to take when it comes to designing your product to make it something that could actually be produced. And then the quality control steps, the mass production steps, supplier vetting, and also understanding the mistakes that other people have made in the past so you don't have to make those same mistakes. Day three is the logical thing would be logistics, right? Shipping and logistics is what we're going to be covering. We're also going to be covering product compliance. You know, when you're shipping to different countries have different standards. And if you don't have certain standards met, if your goods arrive at the port, they could get seized. We also talk about leveraging community to build a true e-commerce brand. We're going to be talking about going beyond Amazon. Obviously, Amazon is a great resource to start your business and start selling on, but you also want to build a brand beyond Amazon. You don't want to be 100% reliant on Amazon. And speaking of Amazon, we also have one of my good friends, Lorenzo Payman, who covers how to make your FBA business more defensible by adding a cause to it. And finally, and last but not least, Facebook ads for your e-commerce business by Jordan Glickman once again. So I hope you enjoyed day three. This is the final day. If you haven't gone through everything, you need to make sure you watch the day two videos before you get here because you want to follow the right steps. I know everybody will be in a different place, but again, by the end of this day, if you follow day one, day two, day three, you should have a blueprint on how to build a 6 to 7 figure e-commerce business.
This is the last thing you want to receive from Amazon. This is an email we received this a couple of weeks back from a customer. We are not selling on Amazon. So we received this from a customer. Well, back then they were not a customer, but they got in touch with us and saying, hey, we got this email from Amazon basically telling us, as you can see, that they had their product listing removed. Okay. Now the reason for this is that Amazon is requiring a lab test report. More specifically, they want to see something called let me see here. Yeah, they want to see documentation proving compliance with the REACH regulation, which is a regulation in the EU that restricts chemicals and heavy metals in all consumer products. Now I'm going to get back to this email at the end of the presentation, when you probably have a better grasp of what compliance really means and the way Amazon is dealing with this, because it's a big thing now. If you haven't been facing similar situations as a seller, then you most likely will receive one of these emails at some point. Now, what I'm going to go through, I'm going to start with the basics, assuming you don't know anything about this topic. I'm going to look into US and EU regulations, and last, the way that Amazon sellers need to deal with this. Right, so we're going to start with the very basics here. Now, when it comes to compliance, you can basically break this down into 4 elements. It can be safety standards and substance restrictions. Substance restrictions basically saying, okay, this teddy bear, for example, cannot contain a certain amount of lead. It has to be 5 micrograms per kilo or something like that. Documentation requirements. This ties down into proving that the product is compliant with point number one, because that's all that really matters. But you also need to communicate this. You may need to get your product certified, maybe self-certification, maybe you need to get it certified by a third party. Okay. Testing, you need to verify that your product is compliant with point one. And most Amazon sellers and importers don't have the equipment to do so in-house, so you need to send this to a testing company. That's point three. In some cases it's optional, in many cases it's mandatory, at least de facto, in practice mandatory. And last, we have labeling requirements. This is something you're likely familiar with already. The CE mark, FCC symbols, country of origin, made in China. They don't put that for fun. If they could get away with it, they wouldn't get that printed on the product. Textiles labeling, fiber composition. So you've got these different requirements that apply to certain products. Now, the question I get quite often is, which products are regulated? The thing is, end of the day, all products are regulated to some extent. Even if it's something basic, like in the US, country of origin is mandatory for pretty much all consumer products. Or in the EU, they all have to comply with the chemical requirements. Doesn't matter what it is, even the packaging materials. But there are different degrees, different levels of, how strict these regulations are, meaning how comprehensive they are, how deep they go. Now, what is very strict, or at least more strict, is obviously children's products, but also electronics, machinery, medical devices, vehicles, food contact products. That's anything from food packaging to kitchen utensils, cutlery, cutting boards, lunch boxes, you name it. Big category on Amazon, by the way. And chemicals, pharma products, cosmetics, and so on. I don't really deal with that category though. Less strict, textiles, watches, jewelry for adults. Okay. Furniture, actually I shouldn't put it there because you got fire safety regulations that fairly comprehensive. But end of the day, you can't really say that you want to go into a category that's not regulated. It doesn't work like that. So let's look into the more specifics here. Let's look into US product regulations. Number one, we have CPSIA. This is a big one. It applies to all children's products as defined by children's products, age 12 years or younger. Okay, you're not allowed to make your own interpretation. If it's broadly considered to be a product for this age group, a very wide age group, by the way, then that's it. You can't just relabel it and say, well, I just gonna specify it as for 14-year-olds or whatever. It doesn't work like that.